Alright, battlers, welcome back to a brand new video. This video is very important to me because this is the Ace recap video for Season 1 Ace and Tampa trainer LindenRyu. So Linden is very important to our community because he has helped to shepherd the entire PvP movement in our city. He's the first guy that you go to if you have questions, the first one that's there to offer advice, to help you out. He's the first one to volunteer to organize events. He even offers up, in some cases, his money to pay for pizza for the events or to help to get us trophies or pins to hand out at the cups themselves. And on top of that, he's extremely active in the Discord as well, helping to organize raids, helping to communicate with players and show them how it works. This is a guy that always puts the community before himself. And as we're starting to get into Season 2 and we're getting deeper into these cups, I just want everybody to remember that it's a long season and the things that you do during the season are going to affect other people. And in my opinion, LindenRyu is one of the best examples of somebody who affects other people in a positive way, no matter where he goes. So as you compete in your cups, as you progress through the season, if you're helping to organize an event or if you're thinking about organizing an event, it's definitely going to be a positive thing in your life and other people's life if you volunteer your time, if you volunteer what you can to help, because it does make a difference in the long run. Enough for me. I'm actually going to let Linden describe his team composition to you. Now, this was actually the Tampa Bay Mirror Cup in August. Linden had over 100 ranked matches. He was battling all the time and beating a ton of really good trainers, and this was actually the final cup he competed in to push him over the ace rank. So I'll hand it over to him.
Hey guys and girls, this is LindenRyu here. Thanks for taking the time to come out and watch some of my battles for our Mirror Regionals Cup at the end of Season 1. This is the cup that ends up helping me achieve ace rank, which I was really excited about. And before Speedy gets into the shoutcast though, I did want to go over my team of 6. And in coming to this 6, I thought it was very true that this is the end of Season 1 and the 6 Pokemon I chose are some of the 6 that I relied on throughout all of Season 1. So my first one is Azumarill. On Azumarill, I ended up running a very standard moveset in Bubble, Ice Beam, and Play Rough. I did consider using Hydro Pump, however, I did like the ability to beat grass that comes with Ice Beam and the fact that it charges pretty quick. I also liked Play Rough as well for the mirror, so in turn, I didn't feel like I could make room for the Hydro Pump. My next Pokemon is Skarmory. This is a Pokemon that was around from the beginning of Season 1. And I carried Air Slash, Sky Attack, and Flash Cannon. And again, truthfully, I probably could have just had Air Slash or just Sky Attack on it. I don't know if I used Flash Cannon once. The next Pokemon is Lantern. And this guy probably ends up being my MVP in the cup. I used Water Gun as the quick move. And I know that sometimes some folks carry Charge Beam, but I liked the ability to really pack a punch with that water gun damage, and coupled with the fact that Lantern is such a tank, it worked out well. And then my charge moves are standard in that I use Hydro Pump and Thunderbolt. My next Pokemon is a very dominating Pokemon in the Great League. I chose Medicham here, and I went with Counter, Power Up Punch, and Ice Punch. I did spend some time also thinking about if Ice Punch was the right move. I had played in a Boulder Cup and used Psychic as my other move instead of the Ice Punch, and I had some success with that. At the end of the day, I decided that I could use the additional coverage against grass Pokemon, especially if Medicham gets ramped up with a couple power-up punches, and that's why I went with the Ice Punch. My next Pokemon is Venusaur, and very standard moves here in the Vine Whip, Frenzy Plant, and Sludge Bomb. This guy I think is a great Pokemon just because of the Sludge Bomb coverage and the fact that he has a Community Day move. This thing just packs a punch at all times. And then my last Pokemon is Sableye, and in this cup I think that he played a lot of bench pressure in drawing out opposing Azumarills. He carried Shadow Claw, Power Gem, and Foul Play. I also did consider Shadow Sneak, but not for very long. I went with the Power Gem for the ability to hit Altaria and then other flyers, and then Foul Play as well. So thanks again guys for coming out to watch this video, and at this point I'll turn it over to Speedy. Thanks.
Linden's first opponent is TD Fiore, or as we know him, Matt. Matt won the Jungle Cup and participated in the regionals competition in Tampa. As you can tell, there's a little bit of jungle influence with his team as he's carrying Victory Bell and Wigglytuff. Everything else seems pretty standard. Matt also tied for first in our local Nightmare Cup. Matt is already doing big things in Season 2. Just last weekend, he traveled to Orlando where he swept a Sinister Cup. Going right into round 1, Linden's going to face off against Matt. Matt's going to open up with the Wigglytuff. Linden opens up with Lantern. Lantern was a comfortable lead for Linden throughout the Mirror Cup in August. He is going to use the Thunderbolt here against the Wigglytuff. Matt does decide to shield that, so he is going to invest in the Wigglytuff. He uses a few charms, and this Lantern is very weak. He uses the play rough. Linden decides to shield that, and it looks like Linden's going to get one more Thunderbolt off on the Wigglytuff before the Wigglytuff can charm down the Lantern. So Matt really wants to win the lead situation here. He does. He does have switch priority. In comes Venusaur. He's going to use a few more charms from Wiggles there and then bring in Skarmory. Skarmory's going to go into a mirror match here now with Linden Skarmory. Matt's does have the slight energy advantage, so he is just going to use these sky attacks here, as is Linden. Linden's storing up some extra energy here as well. He gets the excellent, fires that off against the other Skarmory. And we are just trading sky attacks here. The real question is what is in the back, because that is going to determine the final outcome of this match. Linden is going to shield his Skarmory here and preserve a little bit of health. He is going to use a final sky attack to try to bring down Matt's Skarmory. He does just that. He's got some energy banked. Matt's last Pokemon turns out to be Medicham. Medicham is going to come in. Linden's going to go to a final sky attack. He has to be very happy about that. Those Medicham counters almost took him down, but he's able to do that. In comes the Venusaur with a lot of energy banked from that Wiggles matchup earlier, and the Frenzy Plant wins the match. Taking a look at round 2 of Linden's game versus Matt, Linden's going to open with the Venusaur. Matt does open with Probopass. This is generally favorable for the Venusaur. It just depends on who wants to use the most shields. He is going to get to the Frenzy Plant first. Matt will defend that first Frenzy Plant. Matt's going to fire off a charge move here. It is Rock Slide. Rock Slide is the right choice against the Grass-type Venusaur. However, Linden will shield. He gets to a second Frenzy Plant here. Let's see what Matt decides. Matt is going to let that one through. He's going to fire off another Rock Slide against Linden's Venusaur. I love Probopass in the regionals the first time around, and as you can see, it's sticking around. It is in the Sinister Cup as well. He uses that Rock Slide against Linden. Linden's actually going to commit both shields to Venusaur. He's going to fire off that Frenzy Plant against Matt and then be able to Vine Whip down the Probopass. So Venusaur has a little bit of health left. In comes Wigglytuff, and this is bad news bears for the Wiggles because that Sludge Bomb is going to almost one-shot it. One more charm brings down the Venusaur, but Linden has to be feeling pretty confident at this point. He thinks over his options and decides to bring in Medicham. Even though that charm is super effective, it only got fired off once. He's going to go straight for the Ice Punches against the Victory Bell here. It does take about a third of the Victory Bell's health. Victory Bell is going to get to a charge move and going to fire off that Leaf Blade to take down the Medicham. However, in the back is Lantern, so these Razor Leafs will hurt, but he's able to Water Gun it down for the win. Linden's round 2 opponent is Ryguy, or Ryan. Ryan actually tied for first in the Nightmare Cup and also participated in our regionals competition. Ryan is a staple of our PvP and Pokemon Go community in general in Tampa Bay, and as you can tell here, he's got a pretty meta team, maybe with the exception of Raichu, but you can bet that one's legacy. Going up against Ryan, Linden's going to choose to open with Lantern. Ryan opens with Shiny Raichu. So this is an interesting matchup. You do have to watch out for Raichu's spammability, but as you can tell, it's not nearly as dense as Lantern is. He does go straight for the Wild Charge, very aggressive move, but Linden predicts correctly and decides to block it. He does fire off the Thunderbolt here against the Raichu. Ryan decides to shield that. That Raichu is getting very weak. He is going to get one more charge move off though, and it is Brick Break, shield bait. Linden does not take the bait. In comes another charge move, and he has to know that this is going to be Brick Break as well. He's going to Water Gun down the Raichu and have a ton of energy built up for whatever comes in next. In comes Azumarill, and this is a favorable situation for Linden. Sending in the Azumarill lets Linden know that whatever's in the back behind Azumarill is going to be double weak to the Lantern's Thunderbolts, so he is going to fire off the Ice Beam against Linden's Lantern, but Linden sneaks in one more Thunderbolt, which he has to be very ecstatic about. He takes a huge chunk of that Azumarill's health. He's going to bring in Venusaur, And as predicted, in comes Ryan's Skarmory. So Ryan does have an energy advantage. However, Linden does have the shield advantage. So he is going to take this Sky Attack here and just kind of play out this Skarmory match. We saw a lot of these Skarmory matchups in Season 1. I think as new Gen 5 Pokemon get introduced, we will see less of them. Hopefully there are other things that can counter them a little more effectively in the future as well. Guys, what is your favorite Skarmory Mirror match analogy? I've heard watching grass grow, I've heard watching paint dry. What's your favorite? Leave it in the comments. Linden's going to bring the Skarmory really low. He does fire off the Sky Attack here to bring down the Skarmory. In comes the Azumarill, and Linden brings in that Venusaur with a ton of energy. The Frenzy Plant is going to wrap up that game nicely. Jumping right into round 2 against Ryan, Linden will open with that trusty Lantern, but this time he runs into Medicham. This isn't a terrible matchup for Lantern. It does depend on shielding and how the players decide to play it out. They're both such bulky Pokemon. Lantern will take that Power-Up Punch, no problem. It's going to try to get to this Thunderbolt here. He does miss one bubble, but still lands the Excellent. He attempts to make the switch there against Ryan, however, it does not go through. He is going to switch now, though, after Medicham has used up that energy. Going into Venusaur here, he has to be wary of the double boosted Ice Punch. He does fire off the Frenzy Plant. Ryan does shield, expecting the Ice Punch. Linden shields in return, and that's exactly what it is. He has to get to 5 counters to get to the Ice Punch, but Linden's able to get to the Frenzy Plant first. So the Vine Whips added up really quick for him. He does bring down that Medicham. Ryan is now out of shields. He does decide to bring in the Venusaur. Linden is going to go straight for that Sludge Bomb against the opponent Venusaur. Does a huge amount of damage. He's actually going to decide to shield his Venusaur here. From playtesting, you'll learn that the Vine Whips against Venusaur do hardly any damage at all, so he's easily able to get to another Sludge Bomb. He does bring down Ryan's Venusaur. In comes Azumarill, and he actually gets to the icing on the cake, the Frenzy Plant against Azumarill. Does a huge chunk of damage, and he makes a fast swap into Lantern. Lantern is going to absorb this charge attack. It turns out it is Ice Beam, and he uses a few Water Guns here. The Azumarill is still around, though, but Linden has Venusaur, and they actually KO at the same time, but because he had the Skarmory in the back, he wins the match. Linden's third round opponent is Anton Year, or as we call him, Anton. Anton actually tied to win the Nightmare Cup and is a fierce competitor all around. Every time I faced him, he has beaten me. He's a really, really solid player. He's going to bring a pretty meta team outside of his trusty Umbreon, which he tends to bring to every freestyle. I think it is his favorite freestyle Pokemon. Last season, Anton actually became a father as well, so a huge congratulations to him. That's just so incredible. Even with all the sleepless nights, Anton found time to practice, and he always came out to the Cups to compete. We loved Anton being around and hope to see him much more in Season 2. Going into Game 1 of Round 3, we are going to see Linden ride this Medicham train the whole way. He's going to lead into an Umbreon here, so he's going to go straight for these Power-Up Punches, knowing that the Umbreon is weak, being a Dark type. He does land the first Power-Up Punch, and these counters are starting to add up. He is going to shield his Medicham from the Foul Play. Medicham is still part Psychic, so the Foul Play would do a decent amount of damage. He does fire off another Power-Up Punch, and that Umbreon is very, very low. He actually takes it down with one more counter. This is a double boosted Medicham with one shield. He is going to run into Anton's Skarmory. He's going to go here for the Power Punch against the Skarmory, use a few more counters, and this Medicham is scary good at this point. He is going to decide to shield this Sky Attack, feeling confident that he can bring down the Skarmory with just the counters, and he does just that. Anton's going to bring in his Venusaur here, and as you can see, Medicham has already worked down 2 of Anton's Pokemon. He gets to a second Ice Punch here. He's going to take that second shield. Actually, Anton just lets that one through, and that's game. Going into round 2 against Anton, this game has lots of twists and turns. He's going to open with the Azumarill and win the lead because he leads into Anton's Medicham. He's going to use a few bubbles here. Anton's going to get to the Power-Up Punch, which he does fire off. He's then going to make the fast swap into Azumarill. Linden actually thinks about a switch, but decides to stay in. He does have a significant energy advantage against this Azumarill, so he uses the Play Rough. He's about to get to another charge move, but Anton fires off a move of his own. It is Play Rough as well. Now that the energy has been expended, Linden does swap into Venusaur. Venusaur is going to be wary of these Ice Beams, though, so he is going to have to burn his shield. Venusaur is going to use a few more Vine Whips to get some additional energy banked, and then fire off the Frenzy Plant. Anton will defend his Azumarill, but it's too... Well, actually, it turns out he gets to a charge move first as well. He's going to fire off that Ice Beam, taking Linden's Venusaur dangerously low. However, he does get to the Frenzy Plant here to take down the Azumarill. In comes Anton's Venusaur, and again, those Vine Whips are hardly doing anything. The Sludge Bomb is going to land here, doing a tremendous amount of damage. Anton's Venusaur brings down Linden's Venusaur, and now Linden has a choice. He has Azumarill and Medicham. He decides to bring in his Medicham here. He gets a few counters off before the Frenzy Plant comes in. It is going to take about half of Cham's health. However, he does get to the Power Up Punch here against Anton's Venusaur. Anton does decide to shield that, knowing that he can get to another Frenzy Plant, which he does. Linden's going to let Medicham fall here and then decide to bring in Azumarill. They run into a little bit of lag here, but it's mutual for both players, so they allow it. Linden's actually going to use the Ice Beam here to finish off the Venusaur and risk no more damage being done to his team. He does now have to face off against a Medicham, though. He does have one shield, and this Medicham's Power Punch is going to be blocked. Linden goes here for the play rough, and this game is extremely close. It brings that Medicham low, but both players are low, and the bubbles do the trick. Linden's 4th round opponent is Ferg. Ferg is actually the first trainer to push Linden to 3 matches in this video. I met Ferg in the Kingdom Cup, and just the progress that he made over Season 1 was just astounding. He's an awesome trainer, and I cannot wait to battle him and to see what he does in Season 2. We are now in round 4 of the Tampa Bay Mirror Cup. We're going in with Medicham versus Ferg's Skarmory. This is an interesting matchup. Medicham does have to shield against these sky attacks. However, the counter damage with the power punches starts to add up really quickly, and Medicham can win this in the 2 shields. We're going to see Linden shield this first sky attack, go for a few more counters here, and then another power punch. He and the Skarmory are roughly tied here in terms of health. He is bringing it very low. Ferg decides to shield that power punch, and Linden's going to decide to shield the sky attack here as well. So Linden will win this match. In the beginning, he does have switch priority. He's got a lot of energy ready. Ferg is down to 1 shield. Linden is out of shields. He's going to fire off the Power Up Punch here against the Azumarill. Before the Power Up Punch nerf, this was really kind of a lost cause, Medicham versus Azumarill, because the Fairy type resisted it so well. He does swap into Lantern, and now he's switch locked against Ferg's Swampert. He does fire off the Thunderbolt here, which will do neutral damage, but Ferg shields it instead. Ferg is going to go for a charge attack here. Linden's out of shield, so in comes the Earthquake, and that Lantern falls. Linden thinks things over. He decides to bring in the Medicham, thinking he might be able to get to one more Power Up Punch, but he doesn't quite make it. He brings in his Venusaur, and Swampert's got a ton of energy. He Earthquakes the Venusaur as well. A few Vine Whips do it in, but that Venusaur is gravely wounded. Is going to face off against Azumarill with an Ice Beam, and that wraps up Game 1. Linden just got handed his first loss of the Regionals Cup. Let's see how this future ace trainer handles it. He does decide to open this round with Azumarill into the opponent's Swampert. Swampert is going to get to the charge move first because those mud shots are just so fast. Linden will predict it correctly. It was the Earthquake, and he does shield it. He is going to go here for the Ice Beam against the Swampert, and Ferg decides to shield that as well. Confident that he can get to another charge move, and he actually does. He does fire off another Earthquake, and this Azumarill's taking a ton of damage. He does fire off the play rough here against the Swampert, but Ferg decides to double shield his Swampert. So Ferg has committed both shields to this Pokemon. He wants to win the lead advantage. Linden's going to absorb that Hydro Cannon and let Azumarill fall. He is going to take the shield advantage into this matchup. Ferg does bring in Skarmory here. He's got to save the Swampert, and Linden's going to bring in Medicham. So Linden has 1 shield. He does decide to defend the first sky attack. This match is going to be a lot closer because Linden cannot defend more than 1 sky attack from the Skarmory, and he does have the Venusaur in the back. So he's going to fire off another power-up punch here. And one more counter does in the Skarmory. Ferg must have been so close to the sky attack, but it doesn't work out for him. He does bring in the Victory Bell. Those Razor Leafs are hurting. There's a minor software update coming in, but that's okay. He still gets off the Ice Punch. He's going to attempt to Vine Whip down that Victory Bell, but not before the charge move. It is Leaf Blade. If that would have been Sludge Bomb, that would have been even worse news. However, Linden is able to Vine Whip down that Swampert. He tries to do the sacrificial swap, but Linden's Vine Whips take it down, and then he Frenzy Plants down the Victory Bell as well for the win. We are in the tiebreaker match now, battlers. It is Linden versus Ferg. He opens with Medicham into that Skarmory. So we've seen this matchup play out several times in the video already. He does go here for the power-up punch to try to get some damage worked against the Skarmory. It does land, so Ferg is going to allow that one through. He's going to fire off the Sky Attack. Linden, however, cannot allow the Sky Attack to go through if he wants to keep his Medicham alive. He's going to fire off the power-up punch here against the Skarmory. Ferg does decide to shield that, however those counters are adding up and that Skarmory is dangerously low. Linden is actually going to allow his Medicham to fall here. He has overlapping coverage with his Lantern, but he decides to bring in Venusaur actually to farm down that energy. So he's got a Venusaur with a ton of energy. It's a risky move, but it paid off really well for him. In comes Azumarill, and this could not be better for Linden in the moment. He does fire off the Frenzy Plant here, and he's going to get to another Frenzy Plant, which he does. Ferg is going to use an Ice Beam from this Azumarill, however Linden's got that energy banked. In comes a second Frenzy Plant against the Azumarill, and it does a huge amount of damage. He's going to Vine Whip down that Azumarill, and he's got a ton of energy left. He's going to Frenzy Plant this Swampert and win the match. Linden's fifth and final opponent is Church. Church finished Season 1 as Tampa's undisputed #1 PvP competitor. He had over 140 ranked matches. He also did sweep a Tampa Bay Jungle Cup and is a fierce competitor in any format that you find him in. Church is going to be bringing Lugia, Swampert, Tropius, Probopass, Sableye, and Azumarill. So this is an interesting team. There is no Medicham, as you can see. Lugia is interesting with the Sky Attack and the Hydro Pump. Swampert standard moveset would be Mud Shot, Hydro Cannon, and Earthquake. And the big question with Tropius is whether or not it's an Air Slash variant or a Razor Leaf variant. He is bringing Probopass, Sableye, and Azumarill. And yeah, let's get into the championship games. This is it, battlers. We are in the final round of the Tampa Bay Mirror Cup, and it is the future ace versus the community leader. There's not a more perfect matchup for this game. Linden actually loses the lead and has to switch into Venusaur. In return, Church does switch into his Tropius. So Tropius is going to tank that Sludge Bomb and then going to get off a charge move here. Church is running a Air Slash Tropius variant, so it is going to do well against Venusaur, but he cannot afford another Sludge Bomb. He actually lets that one through, so he's got double shields, but he's got that Venusaur locked right where he wants it. He decides to bring in his Probopass here and fire off a Rock Slide to finish off this Venusaur. He's got a little bit of energy banked. In comes Azumarill. Linden is contemplating the switch there. However, Church is going to stay in. He does fire off a charge move here, which is the Thunderbolt against the Azumarill. It does a good bit of chip damage, and then he's going to make a fast swap into Sableye. Linden actually makes I guess you would say an error. He does switch into Skarmory. Oh, he actually doesn't want his Skarmory to run into the Probopass in the end. So recognizing that, he does bring in the Skarmory, fire off the Sky Attack against the Sableye. He is bringing it pretty low, but Sableye gets to a charge move. It is foul play. Skarmory's going to win that match. However, he's facing off now against a Probopass with 2 shields. So Azumarill is already weakened, and Church actually has the leverage here because Probopass is so dense. He does fire off the Rock Slide, and Linden decides to shield it and go for the Ice Beam here. He does land the Excellent, but again, that shield is just going to absorb it no problem. He gets to a second Ice Beam, so he's putting a lot of pressure on Church, but I'm not sure if it's enough. Church does get to a charge move here, and he's going to finish off Linden with the Rock Slide. Linden is down 1 game in the championship, and what does he do? He goes right back to his trusty lead. He opens with Lantern and runs into Church's Azumarill. This is a great matchup for the Lantern. He is going to try to push for that Thunderbolt. Church actually makes the swap into Probopass. Linden's going to go here straight for the Hydro Pump. If it lands, it'll be devastating. Church does predict correctly and decides to shield it. So he's going to fire off a charge move here. It is the Rock Slide against the Lantern. Lantern's starting to get worn down. Probopass is just so dense. He does decide to shield this next charge attack, which is a Rock Slide. Linden's actually going to swap out of Lantern into Venusaur. This Frenzy Plant is almost ready. However, Church gets to the Rock Slide first. It is going to do some damage against him. Linden's going to overfarm a little bit there and get another Frenzy Plant off. He brings down the Probopass. He's got almost enough energy. In comes Sableye, and here comes another Frenzy Plant. This Frenzy Plant train is just rolling through. He's going to fire a few more Vine Whips against the Sableye. Sableye gets to a charge move, though. Linden's going to shield it, though. He knows that these Shadow Claws won't do enough damage to bring him down. He does fire out the Frenzy Plant to take down that Sableye. Church is probably feeling good because Linden's out of energy. He does use the Play Rough on the Venusaur, probably an opportunity there to bubble it down. In comes the Lantern. Lantern's already has some energy from before, so it is going to pressure that shield out of the Azumarill. Linden makes the swap into Skarmory. Even though he's double weak to those Ice Beams, he is going to try to chip down this Azumarill as much as possible. Church is not going down without a fight. He does fire off that Hydro Pump, putting a huge amount of damage on that Skarmory. That Azumarill's back is against the wall. That Skarmory is using a few more attacks. In comes another charge move from Church. He's actually going to use the Play Rough to bring down the Skarmory, but in comes the Lantern, and the Water Guns are just enough to win it. This is it, battlers. This is the championship round. Church versus Linden. Linden goes with the trusty Lantern lead into Sableye. Church decides to swap into that Probopass. That Probopass's Spark charges so quickly, he actually gets to that Rock Slide. Linden allows that one through, and he's going to go straight for the Cutthroat Hydro Pump. Church is actually going to shield this one correctly again, so excellent prediction on Church's side. He does get to another charge move, which is Rock Slide. That Lantern is getting pretty weak. Linden is going to try to push for another charge move, but not before another charge attack comes his direction. The Rock Slide will finish off the Lantern. In comes the Venusaur. Church is going to stay in with that Probopass. Linden's going to fire off the Frenzy Plant here against the Probopass, taking it down. Church thinks things over, decides to bring in Tropius. Tropius is going to use these air slashes here. Linden goes straight for the Sludge Bomb. The gloves are off. It does a huge amount of damage to that Tropius. Tropius is going to return fire with a charge move, but Linden is going to shield it. It was the Aerial Ace that would have taken down the Venusaur. Linden's going to switch here into Skarmory, and out comes Sableye again. This is actually going to be a closer matchup than you would think. He does fire off that excellent Sky Attack against the Sableye, but that Sableye is going to put out so much damage with this foul play. It actually brings the Skarmory at a little less than half health. He is going to Air Slash down that Sableye, and things are not looking good for Church. He's going to fire off the Sky Attack here against the Tropius. Church has no choice but to shield. He has a charge attack of his own, but Linden has one more shield in the bank, and he burns it here. He's going to defend the Skarmory, and then the Sky Attacks finish off the Tropius. That's it, battlers. That was the final round. LindenRyu was victorious. He swept our Mirror Cup in Tampa Bay. He achieved the rank of Ace, which, as I said in the beginning, there's no player I think is more deserving of that. I cannot wait to see what Linden does in Season 2, along with Church, along with Ferg, Anton, Matt, Ryan, and everyone else in the Tampa Bay community. Keep it locked here for more awesome Tampa Bay battles.